Did you know using your browser in incognito mode doesn't actually protect your privacy? Take back your privacy with IPVanish VPN. Just one tap and all your data, passwords, communications, browsing history, and more will be instantly protected. IPVanish makes you virtually invisible online. Use IPVanish on all your devices, anytime you go online at home and especially on public Wi-Fi. Get IPVanish now for 70% off a yearly plan with this exclusive offer at ipvanish.com/audio.
Live at lunch.
You are looking live.
Live at lunch. Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
What the hell's going on out here?
Now, here's Jimmy Ott and Charles Hannegriff.
For some reason or another, you sound a little taller on radio.
Is it live? Is it live? Is it live? Is it live?
From the Queen Casino in downtown Baton Rouge, right here on the riverfront. Welcome to the Thursday edition of Live at Lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Charles Hannegriff, Max Gotro, Jordan Kinchin's back in the studio. Jimmy remains on vacation through the end of this week. Glad that you're with us on the first day that we will watch an actual football game tonight in the Hall of Fame game between the Lions and the Chargers tonight. Queen be a great place to watch it if you just jonesing for some football, any football. The Queen Casino's got one of the best video screens that you will see anywhere, and you can especially see this during football season where you're going to get every NFL game that's going to be on this big screen in some portion, and you're going to see pretty much every college game that you would want to see that is divided up somewhere here. Jimmy's a big fan. While we're doing pregame, he'll be in the Queen watching every game. It's a great place to watch a game right here adjacent to the bar where we're set up. Come on out here at the Queen Casino as we count it down towards football season. The excitement of an actual game. My experience is, unfortunately, it wears off pretty quick because most of the guys that are going to be playing tonight won't be playing football in another month. But it is a chance to at least get the blood flowing and get a chance to see a real game. And I know that Max, when he joins us, one of the things he'll want to see is Trey Lance tonight. I'm not all that interested in seeing Trey Lance. I got a pretty good idea of what he is at this point. The one thing I want to watch in tonight's game is this is the first game that I think I will have ever watched in my life, and probably that you will have ever watched in your life, where there's no chains. They, if you miss this in the offseason or forgot about it, the referees are no longer using chains to determine first downs. There's now a virtual measuring system, and it will eliminate them having to bring the chains out. Now, they're still going to have the chains as a backup, and the tracking system is going to notify the officials instantly whether it's a first down after the ball has been spotted. But I want to see if this speeds the game up the way it is supposed to. If it works anything, it's this Hawkeye system, it works anything like what it does for tennis. And if you've ever watched tennis, their replays take seconds. And when I mean seconds, I don't mean 10 seconds. I mean 2-3 seconds. They will zoom in on that thing. They'll tell you whether the ball's in or out, and they move along. You see this especially at Wimbledon, which is one of the tennis tournaments that I actually watch. It moves along pretty quick. If it works anything like that, this is going to speed the game up. So that's the one thing I want to watch tonight. I'll watch a little bit of this game just because, hey, it's football, and we're excited to see that. We had the first LSU football practice in the books. They are out on the practice field right now, and the media was allowed in for just the first 3 periods today. So with that practice not being over, we don't have anything off the practice field just yet. But, of course, they're not in pads yet. Anyway, so it's a lot of getting acclimated. Yesterday was a good day. It was a positive day. Listening to Brian Kelly when we got off the show, his optimism is off the charts, and the health of the team is good. The shape of the team is good. The chemistry of the team is something that they'll spend a month building. But one thing that jumped out to me when they released all the depth charts and, who went out with who and all that stuff. The amount of former starters or players that have started at least a little bit somewhere that were with the second unit. And especially on that defense, when they went out there yesterday. Now, they rotated a lot of these guys in the secondary and on the defensive line. But Jacoby and Guillory, Bernard Gooden, Patrick Payton, Jamari Butler, Jakeem Jackson, A.J. Halsey, P.J. Woodland, Deshaun Spears, all of these guys who have started at least some games. Some of them a lot of games in the case of a guy like Patrick Payton. All these guys have started at least some games in college, and most of them at Power 5 schools or Power 4 schools now. And some of them have been multi-year starters, and all of those guys were in the second unit yesterday. Doesn't mean they're going to stay in the second unit, especially where Payton and Halsey are concerned. But all of those guys were out there providing depth or providing people that you could stick in there after the first unit goes. And if you want to count Barry and Brown, the starting receiver at Kentucky, we would flip over to the other side of the ball, or Nick Anderson, who missed yesterday's practice, was supposed to be back out there today. That's two more. If you want to add Michael Van Buren, who we don't expect to see very much because Garrett Nussmeier is going to take every significant snap, that's another guy. It started pretty much all of last year at Mississippi State, out there with the second unit. Caleb Jackson, running back, has started some games. And even the offensive line, where it's not necessarily backup guys that have started a bunch of games, but all throughout the offseason, it's been the number one question mark for people outside the program is what they're going to do with their offensive line. Inside the program, it's probably more at safety. But if you look, what went out with the first unit yesterday, DJ Chester at left guard, started every game last season at center, but every game. Braylon Moore, a 2-year starter at Virginia Tech, and Josh Thompson, a multi-year starter at multiple positions at Northwestern, then you're looking at a decent amount of experience there too. So all of that to tell you that we're one day in, but if you just look at this thing with what went out on the field yesterday, you have to be awfully encouraged about LSU's depth. Was a move today in the NFL that caught my attention. This is an insight to how my mind works sometime. The Cincinnati Bengals have signed Noah Fant. All right, no big deal. Noah Fant was a first-round pick in 2019. He ended up with the Seahawks, and he had 48 catches.
Did you know using your browser in incognito mode doesn't actually protect your privacy? Take back your privacy with IPVanish VPN. Just one tap and all your data, passwords, communications, browsing history, and more will be instantly protected. IPVanish makes you virtually invisible online. Use IPVanish on all your devices, anytime you go online at home and especially on public Wi-Fi. Get IPVanish now for 70% off a yearly plan with this exclusive offer at ipvanish.com/audio.
Just for 500 yards and a touchdown last year. Why do I bring this up? Well, we kind of keep up with the Bengals a little bit because of Joe Burrow. We keep up with the Commanders a little bit because of Jaden Daniels. But this is what I started saying. When the Bengals signed Noah Fant, who had visited with the Saints, which is why it's interesting to me because the Saints have injuries in the tight end room. Jawan Johnson was back out there this morning. He got hurt yesterday, but before that it was Taysom Hill and Foster Moreau, former LSU tight end. So the Saints are trying to bring in another tight end. They brought Fant in for a visit. He decided to sign with the Bengals because if your choices are the Saints or the Bengals, you're going to sign with the Bengals unless the money is way out of whack, which it wasn't. But the other part of the transaction was that the Bengals, to make room for Noah Fant, cut Cole Taylor. Now, Cole Taylor, hang on a second. I remember that name. Cole Taylor used to play for LSU. He didn't finish at LSU, but Cole Taylor was a tight end for LSU. Then he transferred to West Virginia where he played the last 2 seasons. He was an undrafted free agent. He signed with the Bengals. They cut him today. What do we remember Cole Taylor for? We remember Cole Taylor's shoe. Cole Taylor was the player that caught the pass in Gainesville in 2020. You remember the game in the fog? This was the COVID year. If you put the whole thing out of your head, I don't blame you. But Cole Taylor caught a 4-yard pass on 3rd down and 10 in LSU territory, and it would have been a 4th down and 6 yards to go with less than 2 minutes in what was, at that point, a tie ball game. But Marco Wilson, bless his heart, picked up Cole Taylor's shoe, which had come off after the reception, and heaved it down the field. And that was a 15-yard penalty. Instead of 4th down and 6, it was 1st down and 10. And quarterback, remember who? Max Johnson engineered the rest of the drive that got LSU down into field goal range, such as it was, for Cade York to kick the longest field goal in LSU history at 57 yards through the fog with 27 seconds to go, and LSU ended up winning the game 37-34. Cole Taylor caught the pass, had his shoe thrown, finished at West Virginia. Max Johnson was the quarterback that night. Went to Texas A&M, now he's at North Carolina. Who else ran the ball on that drive? Chris Curry. He of the SEC championship game start in 2019 when Clyde Edwards-Helaire was hurt and only had one carry in that game, who transferred out of LSU, but was the primary running back on that drive. You see, the dominoes start falling over in my head. I had to go back and check to make sure I had all of that right. I don't remember everything, but I remembered Cole Taylor. Oh, yeah, that guy, the dude with the shoe. Yeah. Anyway, I just see transactions and just things come to my head. We're here at the Queen Casino, downtown Baton Rouge. Patrick Everson will be with us from Vegas Insider. We're going to talk college football playoff odds. Dwayne Colucci with us from Las Vegas. Mitch Small, longtime official with the LHSAA, now retired, got some thoughts as we start the high school football season as well. Max will join us later on in today's show. Live at the Queen, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Don't forget about friends over at Go Chevrolet in Laplace, and then Go Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Plaquemine. The Go Automotive Group, my buddy Lee Carney and the great team over there. Man, the Silverado trucks, the Colorado trucks are outstanding. How about the SUVs? Ultra popular Tahoes and Suburbans. I got the Trailblazers, the Blazers, the Traverse Equinoxes as well. Some of our cars like the Corvette, Camaro, and Malibu. We've got electric vehicles as well. Take the short drive over to Laplace like I did, and I don't just talk about the vehicles from Go Chevrolet. I drive a Chevy Tahoe that I got from Lee Carney over at Go Chevrolet. My buddy Lee, go check him out over at Go Chevrolet in Laplace.
We got a tech problem here. So let me do this. Let me take a break, and we will solve this tech problem, and I'll get back. Live at lunch from the Queen, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from the Queen Casino on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
And return here at the Queen. We do have our little technical problem cleared up. Patrick Everson joins us, Vegas Insider. Patrick, how you doing?
I'm good, Charles. How are you this morning? Well, I guess it is still this morning there, right?
Yeah, it is. We're here right outside the sports book. We're watching the big screen. We're going to have real football tonight, such as it is with the preseason. Yeah. So, hey, look, it'll be good to just see a real game. At least I find with the Hall of Fame game, I watch for just a little bit, and then my interest kind of wanes. But I know it means football's right there on top of us. So let's talk about some of the work you've been doing with the playoff odds, and we were kind of going through some of the numbers. LSU, we got them at even money to make the playoffs, and Clemson at minus 200 is, I think, one of the better bets on the board. These odds are in place now, but, boy, they're going to really see a change after week one when the top two teams, Ohio State and Texas, meet up, and when Clemson and LSU. So when you look at these odds, what are some of the better plays that you see?
Well, I mean, look, first off, I think it's great of you to point out right off I guess first off I should say thanks for having me, but
yeah,
it's great to point out right off the top that what might be better for bettors to be looking at is the to make the playoff odds instead of the to win the playoff odds, because obviously that's quite a few steps further to get through what could be a 3-game or a 4-game stretch, depending on your seeding, to win the national championship. So I agree with you on Clemson to make the playoff. Clemson's been a really popular off-season team. They've been well bet by sharp bettors in the outright winner market to win the national championship. BetMGM, for example, opened Clemson at 20-1 plus 2,000. They're all the way into 9-1 now. So Clemson's odds have cut in half. And if I'm not mistaken, that makes Clemson, I believe, fourth, or well, maybe not fourth, probably fifth, top 5 or so.
Yes.
On BetMGM's boards to win the national championship. So that's a pretty significant move. And other sports books, the Caesars and DraftKings of the world, have seen that as well. I think the longest odds, I was checking a couple of days ago, Charlie, on Clemson, and I think the longest odds I saw on Clemson to win it all were 12-1. And I think that was here in Vegas at the Superbook. So you're not seeing that at the national books. They're all in that like 9-1, 10-1 range. So they've been a popular play, and maybe to make the playoff. Although obviously to make the playoff odds on Clemson have gotten significantly shorter as well. To make the playoff is not necessarily a bad play. Looking at some of the outright winner markets, the outright winner market though, the team to win the national championship, Texas. Right, that you're in your SEC. Texas is a super popular play. They're like the favorite or co-favorite pretty much everywhere. There was something interesting that happened with BetMGM closer to my neck of the woods. BetMGM in Arizona, one customer, Charlie, went in late June, made 3 6-figure bets, one right after the other, within about 90 seconds. $300,000 on Texas to win the playoff at plus 500. Then that same customer, $200,000 on Penn State plus 750, and then $115,000 on Clemson at 13-1. So that customer got 13-1, which is certainly better than the current 9-1 at BetMGM. Each of those bets, if any of those 3 teams win, Charlotte, and that bettor has a win of $1.5 million. But keep in mind, the bettor's also in for $615,000 in bets between those 3 wagers. So 3 real big wagers, one on an SEC team, one on a Big Ten, and one on an ACC, all trying to cash out for $1.5 million.
I see where he's going with that because we don't expect anybody of the Big 12 to win it. I would be surprised if Notre Dame won it. So you're taking your favorite team out of those 3 conferences. But it's a much more risky bet than it would have been, say, a year ago, Patrick, where I remember we were talking about this earlier in the week that there were markets where you could bet Georgia and Ohio State or the field to win the national championship. They were that significant of favorites in the preseason. And it's a lot more jumbled up this year than it was last year. So if you're going to pick 3 teams, you got a lot more liability, I think, than you had if you'd have done this bet a year ago.
Oh, I agree. And I thought, by the way, I love those props when they do go up. And if there's anybody offering those type of things this year on, say, like Texas and Ohio State versus the field, for example, it's a lot tighter up there. It's definitely going to be more difficult for any of these teams to go the distance, I think. And you've got Penn State right there, and Penn State obviously made the CFP last year. They're right there at most sports books. Notre Dame could be in the mix. Alabama tends to find its way in the mix every year. And right there in your backyard, LSU at BetMGM right now, I'm looking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They are taking the 7th most bets, and it looks like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th most money at BetMGM to win the national championship. And the Tigers' odds have come in a little bit too. They like Clemson opened at 20-1, and it looks like they're into 15-1 now at BetMGM. And I assume some of that similar activity is taking place at other books. So, and then of course Georgia. I mean, Georgia's right behind Texas and Ohio State on the odds board. At BetMGM, they're a tick a few ticks further down in terms of tickets and money, Charlie. But obviously they're going to be part of this equation too, as is potentially Oregon and others. So it's definitely going to be really interesting. I know from the discussions I had with Seamus McGee, he is the trading manager nationally for BetMGM, and you've got Ohio State as well. And he said, look, we'd love to see Ohio State repeat at this point, even though there's a lot of tickets and money, because BetMGM has that big bet on Texas that I alluded to, and he's pretty keen on Clemson as well. Seamus McGee is.
Is there a team at plus money that you particularly like? I was trying to find, not LSU, we got it even money here at the Queen, but is there a team at plus money? I was trying to find one that would be favored in as many as 10 or 11 of the games, and it's kind of tough with those teams that are plus money. Anybody you like?
Like to win, or just to make the playoff?
Just to make the playoff at this point.
Well, I think a couple. I haven't done my own research on this, but in just talking again with Seamus McGee at nationally at BetMGM, I thought this was interesting. He really likes Buffalo out of the Mid-American Conference. He thinks that they have a good chance to win 10 games, and he noted, super long shots to win the college football playoff. But this goes back to the point we made that you really made at the top of this interview, Charlie, and that is, considering betting on to make the playoff instead of to win the playoff. Well, you can get Buffalo to make the playoff at 40-1 at BetMGM, and he thinks that could be a 10-win team that wins the MAC potentially. And if that happens, well, there's a chance that that maybe a MAC team sneaks into the 12-team field. So he likes that. He likes that Buffalo team as a possibility. He thinks maybe a sneaky play and a longer shot is Southern Cal, which has seen some activity in the off season in both the championship market and then to make the playoff market. And going back to your SEC, he thinks Auburn is a possibility, as is Oklahoma. He said, look, the Sooners have a gauntlet of a schedule, but he feels like they upgraded well at quarterback with John Mateer, and Mateer's offensive coordinator coming with him. And he said he thinks this is the best roster Brent Venables had at Oklahoma. So, maybe that's a team you look at, and they've moved up. They've shortened their odds to win the championship, but maybe that's a team to look at in the to make the playoff category as well. And those would all be plus numbers.
Buffalo's an interesting thing at that price to be the group of 5 entry,
right?
Because I think the team you're ducking there is again Boise, and Boise's got to go to Notre Dame. They've got a tricky little trip at the end of September to Air Force, that's not the easiest place in the world to play. So there's some pratfalls on the Boise State schedule. So if Buffalo ran the table and got to, I'm not sure who their biggest non-conference game is, but if Buffalo's got
the season.
Buffalo's got Minnesota. Okay. They can win that game. That's not so they get to 12-0, and Boise loses one or both of those tricky non-conference games at Notre Dame and Air Force. That's interesting.
Off a 9-win season, one of the easiest schedules in the country, returning a lot of starters. It makes some sense. Yeah. I kind of see that.
Patrick, what type of support is LSU getting? If you know, I'm not sure if you know that right off the top of your head, but what type of support the Tigers getting? It basically somewhere around even money to make the playoffs, and I know that's going to change a lot one way or the other after game number 1.
Yeah, that's one thing, unfortunately, I haven't seen much data on yet. I mean, obviously, it's, as you and I have discussed, quite a bit over the last 10 minutes here, it's a bet that it's a market people ought to be looking at, because there might be a little more value in there, a little more opportunity in there than there is to go the distance, to be the last team standing in the middle of January. So, but look, I think in that to make the playoff, just by way of what BetMGM is seeing on LSU to win it all, being among those top half dozen or so teams. I think I said they were sitting 7 in tickets and 5 in money. I think people think that's an intriguing bet to make the playoff as well, and I wouldn't necessarily argue with that. I mean, the SEC's fingerprints are going to be all over this in the end, one way or the other. It's just a matter of they all have to get through each other. It's such a gauntlet that they all have to run beating up on each other week after week after week.
Yeah, I saw him complaining today that Texas' schedule was going to be a little bit harder this year. Well, please make them go on the road and play somebody. Patrick, we always appreciate the time. We'll be catching up with you as the preseason continues and into the season. Always appreciate the work you do. Patrick at Vegas Insider, also for Fox Sports. Patrick, we'll catch up with you soon. Thanks so much for the time today.
Sounds great, Charlie. You guys have a good rest of the week.
We will. We'll take a break here live at the Queen Casino, the DraftKings Sportsbook, live at lunch. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. And return here at the Queen, where the Hall of Fame game will be on tonight on the big screen. You're all excited about this?
Football, let's go. Trey Lance.
Trey?
We get to watch Trey Lance play football tonight, Charlie. How exciting.
Is he going to make the team?
I think he will. It's Taylor Heineke is probably going to be their first backup, and then I would think Trey Lance is. The other guy they have is DJU. Uungale is going to play the second half, it sounds like, but Lance is going to play the first half and maybe the first drive of the second. I'm a Trey Lance truther. I'm holding out hope that he's still a guy at this point, a former top 5 pick. He's gotten a lot of bad luck, Charlie, of course. Injuries, bad situations. That's all it's been for Trey Lance, but now he's in a spot where he's apparently had a pretty good camp. Jim Harbaugh is not like his brother John in terms of wanting to win preseason games. He certainly doesn't have that track record that the Ravens do in preseasons. But I think the Chargers are going to want to bite some kneecaps tonight. I think the Lions are in trouble and they're underdogs. So I'm rolling with Trey Lance. It's a legacy game. I mean, if not now, win for Trey Lance, because at least a lot of eyeballs are going to be on him tonight.
Trey Lance is going to go down. He can beat out DJU. Okay, I'll give you that. He's going to go down as one of, in my opinion, as one of the poster child cases of why you have to have 25 starts in college to get home, even if you are the number 1 pick. Okay, and Arch Manning's going to have this potentially decision to make. Can you go out and make your money? Yeah, get your contract. But they'll give up on first-round picks a lot quicker than they used to. And even if you have the type of investment that San Francisco had in on Trey Lance, they were ready to move down the road pretty quick if he didn't work out. So, especially now with NIL, you can make a nice chunk of change staying in college, and you're gonna have a better chance. This used to be cut and dried. It's like your first round pick, just go, okay, go make your money, and if you flame out, well, then at least you got that money, and you'll always have that. Well, now you can get the money in college, and Quinn Ewers is making a lot less money today in an NFL training camp than he would have had he come back to school. That was never the case before, and Lance, who started 12 games, I think.
So he played, I think it looks like 16 games in 2019, but then the COVID season he was supposed to play, they didn't have FCS.
They played one game.
They played one game just for a Trey Lance showcase. I mean, that's essentially what they scheduled it for. So he had very little experience. He was coming off basically not playing a year. And, that was a clear problem for him. And unfortunately, he got into the league and had some expectations, had some injuries right out the gates. So he probably should have stayed another year. But honestly, NFL scouts have kind of changed the way they look at that. You talk to a lot of these NFL draft analysts now, and they say that they are recommending more players go back to school for more time. They used to want to develop these guys in-house. Let's be honest, coaches have egos. They think that we can change this guy. We can mold this great Anthony Richardson super talent in terms of physical abilities.
Richardson's a great example.
We can mold him, right?
They're pushing him to start even though he is not. In game 1, the Colts have a much better chance to win if Daniel Jones is a starter than Anthony Richardson, but they're not going to win a championship with Daniel Jones. I think they understand that. So it's put Richardson in, let's see what he's got,
right.
Let's mold him here. But when they did that at the beginning, that didn't work. It set him back more than it pushed him forward.
Look, NFL coaches always think they can mold a guy. They can fix a guy. They can make a guy be the next guy, especially offensive coaches. But they also want job security. And it's not as safe when they bring in a guy who they have to learn on the job, and that's what Anthony Richardson, that's what Trey Lance has had to do.
Wouldn't Brian Dable have made that call a little bit differently. If he had a little bit more job security, he might have Jackson Dart in there instead of Russell Wilson. I think we got Kaluch now from Las Vegas.
It's time. It's now Colucci time. Dwayne Colucci is back to give his best picks on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Kaluch, it's the first game of the preseason, man. You got a buzz going a little bit there. I mean, it's the Hall of Fame game, but at least it's a football game, right?
Yeah, it's something. It's exciting that I'm here in Delbar. I don't have to deal with the crowd. That's my most exciting fact today, Charlie. But, yeah, we're seeing some good action on the Lions now. Currently, -2. Opened the game at Pick'em, and 34 is the total. They even bet that up, which, notoriously this game is a low-scoring game. But, they're betting it over. Detroit has a good offense. Defense is suspect. We'll see how many I don't think any of the starters will take any reps, but it's an interesting game. Always keep your eye, Charlie, on the second, third stringers. That's who they're competing for a backup job, and in some situations, maybe a starting job. Now, not particularly these two teams, because the starters at the quarterback position are intact, but it could be an exciting game, and we're seeing some Detroit action.
The one prop that I saw that at least caught my attention was the over on field goals, because both of the teams are supposed to have their regular kickers in tonight. So those are the only regulars that you're going to see. What do you see as a sportsbook manager in the preseason? Generally, any trends, anything for people that just jonesing, can't wait another month, just want to put a little something on a football game where most of these guys are not going to be on the regular season team, be it totals or a certain coaches. Any trends at all?
Yeah, definitely, Charlie. Teams, like I said, when you have teams similar to, say, the Browns, you got 4 quarterbacks deep. They're all fighting for depth chart positions. These are teams that could become focal because they're playing for something, whereas other teams aren't really playing. Like you said, you're not going to see starters. You're not even going to see the backups, unless you're Mr. Harbaugh in Baltimore, who had that huge winning streak we know in the preseason in the past couple of years. Maybe you could bet on that angle, Charlie. But, what you have is mostly sharp action, and offsetting it with the people jonesing, like you said, just to put parlays and put them with their Dodgers, their Mets, their Yankees, or whatever. So, yeah, we'll see some good handle, but the straight bets and the significant straight bets will come from the sharp guys. And now, you're starting to see a lot of season win total bets, conferences in college football. So it's starting to really get a buzz. And, once August 1st hits, it's football time. And especially in Las Vegas, we're going to be booking tremendous action at the Rampart and South Point. And like I said, we've seen not so many preseason big wagers, but we have seen a lot of the win totals to win the Super Bowl, to win NFC, AFC, and so forth.
Any of them surprise you? A certain amount of support for us teams, like, well, I didn't expect that.
Yeah, we took a huge bet on Minnesota under 9.5, and South Point took a tremendous amount of action on the over. So I'm very surprised that the Vikings are very vocal, with the parity there and McCarthy coming in. I'm unsure how to react and how to handicap that team, but it seems like a lot of the sharps are jumping on the over and the under. So I was a little shocked there, but we're getting plied with Buffalo money. That's not shocking. You have a win total of 12, and you almost, Charlie, guaranteed 6 wins in your division. If Allen is healthy, they're going to most likely sweep the Jets. Miami is in total disarray at this point. And, New England is improving. We'll see what May could bring to the table, especially with Diggs. It's going to be a very important, season for those guys if they want to compete for a wild card. But the AFC is so stacked, and, you have that division with, like I said, Baltimore, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, so many different quarterbacks changing places. You have Fields now on the Jets. You have Rodgers now on Pittsburgh. And you have the West, which, I don't have to speak about. Patrick Mahomes definitely taking a ton of action on them in the futures market, as well as the LA Chargers, and that's because we're in close proximity of to LA, and that the team is on the cusp of maybe making some noise and making a playoff run if they could stay healthy. So, we're getting a lot of different angles. The AFC is stacked, even Denver I didn't talk about, but so many teams, whereas the NFC, I'm really not shocked seeing the market on Washington and Philadelphia. We're getting plied with a ton of money on those two teams. They still look like they're, well-rounded and two of the top teams. A lot of Frisco money as well, but that's normal, and they're looking to bounce back. You have a little Ram money. We'll see how healthy they are. We'll see if Stafford could stay healthy in those guys. So it's going to be interesting. And you don't have Cup there. You're relying on Nakua now and his health, and we'll see how that plays out. But definitely we're seeing a ton of action spread across the board. It's exciting. And nothing really shocking other than those Minnesota wagers that I spoke about.
Kalucha, I guess I'm a little surprised to hear you talk about the Chiefs getting money. Just seems like they're going a little bit under the radar. They're talking a lot about how they feel like they've brought in some good offensive reinforcements and things are good. But it seems like noise is at a low for the Chiefs. The Super Bowl runner-up curse kind of seems like a thing that affects teams that lose in the Super Bowl. And then I'm seeing Madden's ranking Patrick Mahomes as the fourth best quarterback. I've seen a lot more quarterback rankings that are dropping Mahomes a little bit below the Josh Allens, below the Lamar Jacksons of the world. Is this a bounce-back season for the Chiefs, or do you expect them to kind of fall back to the field considering some of the records of these Super Bowl runner-ups?
Well, the whole problem is you have to beat the Chiefs. That's the whole thing. You have to, to be the man, you have to beat the man. And Buffalo hasn't been able to do it in the playoffs, and they seem like they're the AFC front runners right now. The division is stacked, but I wouldn't say that you're flying under the radar or a bounce-back season when you lost in the Super Bowl. This is a dynasty, and this team is here and been consistent for many years. I have my own quarterback rankings and, how we formulate the odds, so I don't buy much into a video game as well, like Madden. I really, it's a measuring stick. It's a lot of fun, don't get me wrong, and you always have to flash your quarterback higher ranked. I mean, Lamar Jackson is a total, complete, monstrous athlete, and we know that. But, until they beat the Chiefs and somebody else represents the AFC, you have to respect this team. And I think that's why the Sharps are backing them, because the price is a little more elevated than in past years, which you bring up a great point. And, they're going to jump on that because you still have a very good team. Kelsey is supposedly in super monster shape. We're going to see if he could have a bounce-back season. Also, the running game has to be consistent, but Andy Reid is probably the best coach in the NFL, and who else do you want running that team? And he has complete control of it. They know how to win the big playoff games, and that's always a factor. When you're able to win in adverse conditions and win the big games and do it consistently, you have to put that feather in your cap, and especially when you're handicapping. Like I said, Buffalo can beat them all they want in the regular season, but when you come to that playoff game and you can't defeat Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey and those boys, it becomes a problem, and that's why we're seeing some action in the market.
Yeah, it's a much harder division to win now than it was 3 years ago. 3 years ago, you had the three worst coaches in the league and Andy Reid. Now you got three of the best. Three guys with really, really thick resumes. All right, Kaluch, give me a horse. You out at Del Mar. Give me something that you like.
We're all clamoring. Definitely. Okay, I'll give you the race 5. I was looking last night a little bit. The one horse, True Patriot, Hector Berrios, and Bob Hess Jr. Bob Hess has been phenomenal at this meet so far. He's had 14 starters, 6 of them in the money, 2 of them actually won. Hector Berrios, probably the best turf rider on the West Coast. Now you're getting this horse stretching out to a mile. He's won over the Del Mar course, which is very important. When you look at this field, no other horse has won over the Del Mar course, and he also had a second-place finish. So this is a prime spot at 6-1. Hector Berrios, the one horse, True Patriot, Bob Hess Jr. He's going to be, sitting a little back, but he'll make a good closing run. And I think that extending to a mile from 6.5, he will show a little more speed and be a little closer than usual. And I think it's a prime spot for this horse. The only thing he has to overcome is the rail.
All right, True Patriot in the 5th at Del Mar. Keep Jimmy in line out there. Tell him to make sure he gets on the right plane. He's due back at work on Monday. So you guys have a great weekend, Kaluch. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you next Thursday.
Thanks, Charlie. I appreciate you. Love you guys. And say hi to everybody in my friends in Baton Rouge.
Absolutely. Dwayne Colucci out at the South Point and the Rampart. We're here at the Queen. The DraftKings Sportsbook, the Hall of Fame game is tonight. We're about a week and a half away from the first full preseason action. The Saints in action on the 10th. So got a little bit of time before we get to them.
That's the one thing that concerns me about the Chargers. It might be a look-ahead spot for them. They've got the Saints on deck, and Brandon Staley, revenge angle. I mean, maybe they're looking ahead tonight in Canton.
I'll tell you what's going to be interesting. We'll talk about next week is how the Saints divvy up quarterback reps. I mean, we haven't dealt with this in I can't remember. Ordinarily, it's just look. We're not going to put anybody out there that is going to play. I mean, Carr played, one series his first year and none last year. Breeze had pretty much quit playing preseason games by the end there. This is the first time we're going to have quarterback reps in the preseason that actually mean something.
They need to narrow the race down a little bit. Hunter Deckers, they did release him earlier today, so that's the fourth quarterback. You're down to 3. But Haener, I mean, you got to figure something out. You got to narrow, make some decisions.
We'll take a break, be back with hour number 2, live at the Queen, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Plus.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from the Queen Casino on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
And return here at the Queen, live at lunch. DraftKings Sportsbook Hall of Fame game tonight. Baseball all weekend that you can watch here at the Queen. And then the preseason into its full swing next week. Get all the games that are available to you here at the Queen. Great place to watch. When you come out for college football, you're going to get all of the SEC games and all of the prominent games. You can ask to have games put on. They're able to do so many different things with this giant screen here, divided up into so many different pieces, but the prominent games always on the big screen, LSU and the Saints. Great place. We do half of our football Sundays here at the Queen, so you're talking about every NFL game, just about every one of the college games that you're going to be interested in. Multiple kiosks are always staffed up at the windows, so you're never waiting too long to be able to make a bet. And you know what? We enjoy that stuff here at the Queen. We're at the bar right adjacent to the sports book. You can always get some refreshments. Walk next door, grab a burger, grab a sandwich, grab some pizza here at the Queen in downtown Baton Rouge, right there on the riverfront. Hope that you come on down here and see us for lunch today. Or come on down and watch the game tonight or any of the games here in the month of August. And bring in a good friend of ours right now. This guy was with the LHSAA for forever. I'm going to say in excess of 30 years, in charge of the PR and a lot of other things. Mitch Small, who is now retired, professional fan, I would say. Mitch, it's good to see you, man. How you been?
Good to see you, Charlie.
What now that you on the other side of your long career, what do you think about when all of the football starts here in the month of August? Colleges, the pros, and of course your deal was the high schools forever.
Excited as everybody.
Yeah.
Just a great time of year. I have a grandson rather, who's the quarterback at Catholic now, so a vested interest in my following him.
You can
around.
go root now, huh?
I can. I got a problem wearing that orange, but I do root for him and try and make all the ball games.
Well, I'll get Moscona to see if he can get a black shirt for you instead of the orange. Man, so many of the high schools, getting started here this week and next week. We got enough time between when the split came and where we are now, and it's different. You saw this whole thing. You saw it for 20 years before the split and 10 years after it. How much different high school football now than it was?
Different. I can remember the first time we ever heard rumors. Hey, publics looking at separating and keeping the private separate.
You remember what year that was? Because I remember when we first started talking about it a little bit. In the 90s or before?
The rumor started in the 90s, absolutely, and then it kind of just simmered for years. People complaining. Evangel Curtis. Was the ones that were pointing the fingers at. Look, they were good programs, and even the guys in our office, the football knowledgeable guys, said, if talent's even, the coaching staffs on those teams were incredible. J.T. Curtis is an unbelievable coach, really is. I mean, turned down numerous college offers over the years, and but as it simmered and simmered, and I think the public schools, although they wanted to win championships and they couldn't get to the Dome because of Curtis. And people forget West Monroe was a public school in their domination. But the tilting factor ended up being when they came up with the proposal, hey, you can kind of have your cake and eat it too. We'll keep you in the district so you can still keep the private schools and you can keep that local district. You don't have to travel to remote parts of the state to fill a district schedule. But now we're also, when we get to the playoffs and we split, now you got an opportunity to maybe make it to the championship game, and that was obviously what did it.
I had a lot of concerns, and I was against the split, still am.
Same here.
Okay. My biggest concern was that the high school football in the state, the quality of it would drop off. And the reason I believed that, and it's turned out not to be the case, was a similar situation in Tennessee, which happened now, gosh, we're going back 30 plus years.
Yep.
But the in-state quality of recruiting for Tennessee, and at the time, Phil Fulmer did what he had to do, which was he went to Georgia, he went to Ohio, he came into Louisiana, and he did a really good job with that, and that's why Tennessee was so good in the 90s. But the in-state recruiting had fallen off. The quality of play, the iron sharpens iron thing. The high school football in this state now, I can't tell you that the rivalries are maybe as good or things like that. They're still intense, but or they still at the level that they were. But the overall recruiting, the overall players in this state, I don't feel like have dropped off after the split the way I feared that they might.
No, talent hadn't diminished, that's for sure. We can go every year you're going to see some of the best the nation produces right here in Louisiana, irregardless of who they play during the season and how the season shapes out. The kids are just so talented. But I agree with you in the fact that I was against the split. In fact, our entire office was. I can remember everybody saying this isn't good for anybody. And you know, I can understand the frustration of some really good teams and they getting beat along the way and, you know, having but I saw countless good Catholic high teams using Catholic because I mentioned them already. But the Warwick Dunn teams and the Travis Minor team, it never made it to the Superdome. I never had Catholic there until very late in my career, and that was after the split.
The team that Tommy Banks' West Monroe team beat might have been their best non-dome team, maybe.
It could have been. But I can remember them, and I'll tell you another one. St. Aug never made it to the Superdome. They'd have 7 or 8 D1 college football players come off of their rosters, but everybody went through West Monroe, and West Monroe was just a gauntlet, and they put in a lot of great teams runs.
So with now, I think this is the 13th season since the split.
That's pretty close.
I think I'm right there. The good, the bad, and the ugly. What has there been good things come out of it?
More kids get to experience the Dome, and that was the argument. You know, more kids get to play in the state championship, but we're in that. You know, then the rebuttal of that was we're in that everybody gets a trophy mentality. I've seen some great matchups now: public against public, private against private, select and select, non-select, non-select. I've seen some great matchups in the Dome. I'm grateful that the LHSA still calls me and asks me to do the announcing, so I do the pregame and the end of the game.
Because nobody's as good as you at that, man. Come on.
No, nobody else wants to do that.
No, man, you were great.
I've watched it, and I've seen some great games. Last year had some unbelievable games. I mean, Dunham went down to the wire and lost at the very end of the game last year. I know the Central game was a blowout, and there was a couple of blowouts, but the Dunham game was incredible. Down to the end.
I understand everybody wants to play. I played high school football in this state, and my dream was to play in the Superdome, okay? But when I dreamed about playing in the Superdome, I dreamed about playing on Friday night. I dreamed about playing on Saturday night or Saturday afternoon. I didn't dream about playing at 10 o'clock in the morning on a weekday, okay? That wasn't, with friends and family in the stands. I dreamed about that, the biggest game I would have ever played in, and so it's taken a little bit down. And the event as a whole, which is still good, but it was so special. I went down there. I think I didn't miss a game for 20 years, or close to it, and it just doesn't move me the way that it does, that it used to.
I think that has diminished a little bit, because you had that best of the best mentality, and that's what it came. 5 games. Like
that's it.
Yeah, 2 Friday, 3 Saturday, and it had gotten. I remember Tommy Henry telling me we had reached a point where people were now calling for tickets to buy their tickets in September. So obviously, no idea who's going to make it there, but the event had grown to the point that it wasn't just the teams that make its fan bases. It was football fans that wanted to watch the best of the best, irregardless of who they were, and they would buy the tickets early. And Tommy said he kind of felt like that's when we crossed the hump. Speaking of that, if you want to compare, I look at the crowds we draw now with 8 games as opposed to what we did back then with 5 games. The Brock Berlin year, 60, 62, 63,000.
For the 5 games.
Had to open the
terrace.
The terrace. I can remember that.
Because West Monroe's coming.
It was unbelievable. And Brock Berlin, everybody wanted to see this great player that LSU wasn't getting. And, it was a happening back then. It really was.
I left the Superdome after that game disappointed that he wasn't going to LSU, and he never panned out as a college player. Yeah. Never realized that.
Yeah.
But it was those type of players that you went to see.
Absolutely.
in the Superdome. That's what made it such an event. So how would you grade the overall health of the high school football right now? Just overall.
Good. I was this coming December, God willing, will be my 34th announcing in Superdome. The only year I missed was COVID, and I was worried about it back in them. I mean, as we all were, the uncertainty of
the year was in
going
Shreveport,
forward.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was in. It was in Natchitoches at Northwestern.
What year am I thinking it
The
was?
Shreveport year was Katrina year.
Yeah,
that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But I was a little concerned then, but it certainly is bounced back healthy now as ever. Participation numbers are good, and quality of play, as you mentioned, is remained consistent.
Yeah, I still think the coaching here is better than it's given credit for, and not just the big names. Not just the Jim Hightowers and the JT Curtises and things like that. But I think overall, the coaching here is a lot better than it's ever given credit for, because you see states that have similar populations that do not produce the type of high school players that you see here, and we pay attention to the ones that go to LSU or in the Southeastern Conference somewhere else. But to be able to stock multiple D1 programs in the state and the number of teams that come from outside in the state, I think the talent level is still at a really, really high level. What I worry about somewhat is the funding, which is what everybody is. I had to read this story yesterday. I had to look twice. In Beaufort, Georgia, Beaufort High School opened a $62 million stadium. Look, high school football is healthy here, Mitch, but it ain't. Oh, we ain't opening no $62 million stadium.
No, I agree.
So, from facility standpoint, from things like that. I mean, before he became mayor. Sid Edwards going over to try and resurrect the program in the Strum. I see the type of obstacles that they go through, but overall, pretty good, right?
Good. I mean, you look at facilities now. I look back as when nobody had a turf field back then.
No.
I mean, nobody. I can remember, Charlie, when I was with the LHSA, one of our big sponsor components, we had a turf shoe company. We would open we called it a shoe bank in the Superdome. So back then, with only 5 games, you had enough time for kids to get a 1-hour practice session the day before. They'd come in, get acclimated to the playing surface. Mm-hmm. Nobody had turf shoes. So when I started with the LHS in 91, it was Converse. When that contract ended, I was able to sign Reebok, and they would give us 300-plus pair of shoes. And we would have kids, college kids, we would open up, took an entire suite on the bottom floor of the Superdome, and when the kids came for their practice session, they could check out a shoe, they could try it at the practice. They were not obligated to play with it. They had the option to do that or whatever they were wearing, but 90% of the time, because it was a turf shoe on that old AstroTurf, that was it was a better fit.
I played one game on turf in high school. I'm gonna date myself here a little bit, but when I say I played, I warmed up and sat on the bench as a freshman. But it was the last year that U-High played at Bernie Moore in the middle of the track oval, which we played them in '85, and it was, you'll remember some of these names. The starting quarterback for U-High got hurt, and we played him in middle to late September, and a freshman quarterback came in for U-High named Chad Loop, who had one of the more decorated careers for high school players here, and that team won a state championship his senior year, and of course he went on to LSU. But they were still playing in the middle of the oval at Bernie Moore in 1985. We came back and played them in the playoffs again the following year in 1986, and they had moved over to the LSU practice field. But that was it. Yeah. They were the only team that I knew that played on turf back then.
You know, speaking of turf, and a lot of people may not know this, when Katrina happened and we're devastated, obviously we're not playing in the Dome, LSU, Bertman reached out to us, and I can remember going over to Coach's office, and he offered us the facility to play in Tiger Stadium, which would have been great for the kids. But as you looked at it, 5 games and the chance of rain in the first game and what that would look like to play a state championship game 5 games later, the only option we had was to go to Shreveport, and thank goodness Independence Stadium welcomed us with open arms, and it was 19 degrees, but it wasn't anything you could do.
At least you weren't playing in a quagmire.
No.
Because the Saints were playing games at Tiger Stadium
as well.
That's correct.
Yeah, but it was a 1-game scenario as opposed to us trying to get 5 in, and that wouldn't have been.
It was a rough go. We're going to take a break. We got a few more stories we want to tell here. We're at the Queen. We're also brought to you by the Thibodeau store and the Pierre Part store. If you're doing home improvements, this is the only place that you need to go, because not only can you get all of the equipment that you need and get it at a great price and all the supplies that you need, but you also get that expert service that the experts at the Thibodeau store and the Pierre Part store can provide to you. You know, down at Pierre Part, they've been in business since, for 113 years. And down at the Thibodeau store, they can give you that expert advice that you need. Maybe you don't have to hire a contractor or a handyman. Maybe you can get some of these things done yourself, save a little bit of money. Hand tools, power tools, lumber delivered out of the Pierre Part store. They do paint matching and a whole lot more at the Thibodeau store. Also, if you're trying to get your outdoor patio furniture, Outdoor Expression still running a special on the website at thethibodeaustore.com. Get your summer patio as we wind down the summer at very, very good pricing. All of your grills, all the way up to your big green egg cookers too. Thibodeau store open daily till 5:30 p.m. Located 900 St. Patrick Highway in Thibodeau. Live at the Queen, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Don't forget our friends at Relief Windows. If your homeowners association requires wood windows like mine, no better people to call because you get the best of both worlds. The builder wants something that's going to last. Yes, we do too. But the architect wants something that is going to prioritize what looks better. Oh, we want that too. But you also want it to be functional also. It is functional. I love my Relief window. When the weather is really nice, roll them open in a medium room, man. Enjoy the open air. And they look great. They're functional, and they are built to last. They're built to last because it's RLS wood by Geldwin. Unlike your average wood, which is treated on just the surface, it's treated straight through the core, offering unparalleled protection against rot, water saturation, and termites. These wood windows from Relief Windows are built to last. Check out all of their products at reliefwindows.com. Relief Windows and reliefwindows.com.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from the Queen Casino on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Remember, the show's available on demand, 1045ESPN.com and LouisianaSports.net. I'm going to take a little time today to talk about some high school stuff, and Mitch Small is our guest. He was with the LHSA for over 30 years. There is a new rule that they are about to vote on that will allow. Boy, this one shook me up when I saw it. We're not talking about a transfer portal for high school students, are we?
Well, it's getting there. And, of course, obviously, they're kind of mirroring the college stuff. But supposedly and I'm on the outside looking in, but with a little bit I know
more
about
than me.
with a little bit I know about it is the legislature has now kind of pressured the LHSA to look at a one-time transfer rule, regardless of anything, I guess, just a free right to a one-time transfer rule. Now, I don't know if you know this, Charlie, but in Florida, you're like at the end of a school year, they wipe the slate clean. You can transfer. So a kid, in essence, 4 times. He can go every year. First day of school, he can enroll wherever he wants. And they've had that for several years now.
Okay.
I see the skepticism.
I got just enough information to get me in trouble here, but I'm of the opinion that if a family moves, if mom and dad get a job somewhere else, or you're moving for whatever reason, you ought to be able to put your kid in school where you live.
100%.
So if in order to protect the integrity of it, you had to sit out. I always felt for the kids where it was legitimate, where, like I said, mom or dad's got to move, or whatever,
yeah.
And it's legit, and the kid had to sit out, and that happened.
Yep.
Okay, I always felt for them. I didn't feel sorry for anybody whose mom and dad were living somewhere else, and we had an apartment address somewhere, and we paid for an apartment and put.
Yeah.
And I say we, I'm just talking about in general. Make sure that there's pots and pans in the kitchen, so that if the LHSAA comes and investigates, it looks like somebody's actually living there. There's sheets on the bed and stuff like that. I always thought that was crap.
That's right.
Now, so when you're telling me a transfer rule is a possibility, if that's to protect families that are moving, then count me in. If this is so a stud player can transfer and play, somewhere else, well, then I got a hard time backing that.
Unfortunately, that's what it's going to come to. And I'm not in favor of it because I think it's going to be a scenario of the rich get richer.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. But LHSA has long had rules in place to allow those kids. We had a hardship committee that would hear kids that were in hardship situations. Mom and dad died.
Mom and dad died or whatever. You live with the coach.
Yes.
I get that.
Yeah.
Okay. And
we had hardship rules in place to cover those scenarios. But I think the one now is just a blanket, go wherever you want one time. I think that's going to create some issues.
Yeah, put me down for one no vote if it's just blanket. But listen, I don't know if it'll hold up legally or whatever. Let me ask you about basketball because I do not think that the split, we're now 13 years into this thing, has affected the the talent level for high school football. But high school basketball, I can't say the same thing, because in the 90s and deep into the 2000s, there was plenty of boys and girls basketball talent here.
Incredible.
And I know you got a story you're going to tell here, but it seems like when that last monster class at LSU aged out, that class that included Glenn Davis and Tasman Mitchell and Garrett Temple and Darryl Mitchell and all, when that group
all Louisiana products, and a lot of them better, Tyrus Thomas, it seemed like when that group aged out, it'd been few and far between to the absolute top of the line. You had a Jarrell Martin, you had a Javonte Smart, you had a Chris Senac, but outside of those three in the last 10, 12 years, that's the 5 stars that I can think of. That's
and you
correct.
used to get multiple guys
Handfuls.
here. So I don't know if that's because of the split or because we're seeing these basketball factories like Senac went from Newman to Link up in Branson, Missouri, and ended up signing with Houston. So I don't know if it's because of the split. It's just the high school basketball, to me, seems to have suffered a lot more than the football.
I just think it's maybe an ebbs and flows, and it's down right now for how long? Hopefully it'll come back up. I know we have some great basketball coaches in the state, some great programs, and I think hopefully it'll make that climb again, like you mentioned. But you're right. I've seen some top 28 tournaments where, man, you could have taken a roster from those teams.
Me and Jimmy called a lot of those games.
Holy smokes!
Yeah, you had a who's who of the college basketball coaches that were watching those games.
Yeah, and the popularity of it back then. I mean, when we went to the Cajun Dome, that was nuts down there. I got to know the fire marshal as good as anybody, because every night he would shut our ticket gates down and multiple times within a week, and it was a special time, high school basketball in Louisiana in that period. It
so
really
you think it'll come back? You don't think?
I hope so. Yeah. I hope so. I'm optimistic. We've got some good youth programs in the state, and the kids, just like our football. I don't think there's a drop off in coaching talent, certainly, and I think we're just in one of those lulls with 5-star quality players.
Javonte Smart was, the last one out of this area. We're going back a few years. Javonte's been gone for a bit, but he was a terrific player.
So we're in. I got to tell this story. I think you fans will appreciate this. We're in Burton Coliseum in Lake Charles, which at the time was the home of the Cowboys. So at mid-court, there's this huge, that classic McNeese symbol. It's got the cowboy on the bucking horse.
Bronco, yeah.
Right. Well, the horse, the diagram at midcourt extended well past midcourt towards the 3-point arcs. Anyway, I'm seeing him for the first time, and Javonte is coming on the scene as the top guard in the nation. So they're playing the quarterfinal game against Washita. And I've got a courtside seat. I'm sitting at the press row on the end. And just before they go to tip, they're doing the starting lineup announcing. The principal of Washita, Todd Geis, said, "Hey, Mitch, can I have this seat next to you?" And he's on our board. I mean, absolutely. So he sits next to me. They tip it. Washita gets the opening tip. Go down, shoot, miss. Scotlandville clears, kicks it out to Smart. He crosses midcourt, and he jacks one up, and just nothing but the bottom of the net. And Todd Geis looks at me, and he said, "Mitch, he just shot that from the horse's ass." And I said, "Yeah, and it went in." Todd.
That was before logos threes was a thing. That's kind of become the catchphrase and that's kind of Caitlin Clark's thing, all right. And long before Caitlin Clark, you got to see some of the great girls basketball. They had some play.
I did. I saw Simone senior year. She sold out Southeastern, which I don't know how many times Southeastern's been sold out, but it can't be too many.
For girls high school basketball, I'm thinking
none in girls. Just that arena alone.
Period. Yeah.
But Simone was, I think, a freshman in Capital, and she was at. They were playing in our Sweet 16, which was up in Monroe at ULM. and Southwood in 5A had Elena Beard. And
Duke, right?
Both of those young ladies went on to win the Wade Trophy in college basketball, which is the equivalent to the Heisman. So think about that. We had a high school basketball tournament in Louisiana that had 2 future Wade award winners in the same tournament. I remember that being a big deal.
The high school, I'm going to say the level of high school and the dedication of some of the people that have, spent their life in it here is second to none. I'm going to give you one more, and this is from just the media standpoint. Scott Rabelais brought this to my attention. When Robin Fambrough retired, this will be the first year she's not doing it since the early 90s. Scott reminded me of the fact that the Advocate, Capital City, main newspaper, 2 prep editors in 50-plus years. This was Robin, and before that it was Ted Castillo who did this. So my point, you spent over 30 years. Yeah. The late Tommy Henry spent at least 30, right?
Yeah.
And you can name other people. You spent your life doing this, man.
That's correct.
That's why the level of this stuff is what it is in this state.
Yes. Yeah, Robin, certainly a dear friend. Shared many an interview room with Robin. For a good percentage of my career, I was also, besides marketing, I was in charge of media, and we would do post-game interviews. Was one of my responsibilities, and I can remember the countless times Robin Fambrough in the interview room. And then not only that, Charlie, they would come in and get the interviews, and then she'd go courtside and write the stories. We're picking up, and we're getting ready for the next day and that kind of stuff, and then we're leaving, and the only people left are the cleanup crew, and there's Robin and maybe 1 or 2 other, but it's always Robin, it seemed like, courtside writing her finishing story for the day, and very appreciative of what she's done for high school sports.
When we were doing high school game of the week on WIBR back in the 90s, always liked it when we walked in somewhere and Robin was at the game. I was like, I picked the right game this week because I knew she'd be at the biggest game. So we got the right one this week. We'll take a break here live at the Queen, the DraftKings Sportsbook live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, don't forget our friends at Total Maintenance. Total Maintenance, one of South Louisiana's oldest and largest AC and heating companies since 1980. It's hot. It is very hot. So if it breaks down, something is just not cooling properly, call 480-1000. 480-1000. Service today, every day means same-day service. You'll never sleep hot with you call Total Maintenance at 480-1000. Call today, get service today. We're factory-authorized dealer for Carrier, American Standard, Dakin, and Rheem products at Total Maintenance. We're authorized dealer for Generac and Cummings generators. Now is the time. We're right on the cusp of storm season, so now's the time to get those generators installed. And we're covering both Metro Baton Rouge and New Orleans areas, but not compromised in either because we have completely different staffs and offices for both. Breaks down. Call our friends who support the show, 480-1000. 480-1000, Total Maintenance.
With Otten Hanny from the Queen Casino on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
And we return here at the Queen. Kind of a little something different today. I knew we'd be in between practices and in between games, stuff like that. I want to take a chance to visit with our friend Mitch Small, who's spent over 30 years with the LHSA, and kind of get a feel for some of the things going on now, but also to reminisce just a little bit. And so, Mitch, 27 championships.
27 sports.
Okay.
Right. Boys and girls.
So, and you with all of them.
I
okay.
went to, at some point I was at all of them.
So it wasn't just the Superdome. I mean, you said.
No, well, I was in charge of trophies and awards, and I had sponsors that we had lined up to present.
So you saw softball and wrestling,
cross country, tennis, and girls soccer.
So give me. I'm just going to ask you a couple of real easy questions. Who's the best player you ever saw? In all that time, pick a football player, pick a sport, you've seen guys that are in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
In fact, I want to say I don't know if you were there that night at Peyton Manning's last game at Northeast.
I actually was at that game.
I was at that game.
That was the first time I'd ever seen him.
It was the first time I'd ever seen him too, and they
Yeah.
would play. And you remember who the coach was at Northeast?
I'm looking at him.
Doug Williams.
No, it was after
No, it
Doug.
was. It was Doug.
I thought it was.
It was the only year he did.
Okay.
He did 1 year, and he was at Northeast High School. They had a running back named Rodriguez Turner who basically won the game for Northeast that night.
Yeah, Newman couldn't stop him.
Manning was great, but Turner probably ran for 270 that night or something like that. But anyway, what best you saw?
That night, I told the guy sitting next to me, I said, that guy's going to play in the NFL.
Yeah.
he was just
he was fantastic.
He was.
But you seen a ton of the greats.
Probably Joe McKnight was
he was special.
Electric. I mean, just you come up with a million adjectives to describe. That guy was unbelievable. He was really good. I saw a bunch of them there. Who was Charlie? I can't think of his name. Johnny. He was running back before McKnight. Went to Ohio State from Curtis.
Jonathan Wells.
A big kid.
Jonathan Wells.
Yes,
yeah.
Good-looking kid.
He was
really
Beanie Wells. Yeah, he was terrific. I'll tell you who. Kevin Falk is kind of out there by himself and a lot of things. I'll tell you the best game I ever saw. The best game I ever saw played by a player here was a game that Chiron Carey had. We had him in a playoff game, and it looked to me like Chiron Carey had eyes in the back of his head because he wasn't the biggest guy on the field, obviously, but good luck getting you ever watch Floyd Mayweather box? Okay, you can't hit him.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how Carey was. I mean, you were having a hard time laying a hand on him because he was so elusive.
Yeah.
He was. That was the best game I saw a high school player play. Was when I saw for a skill position guy.
I saw a really good Curtis team get beat by Salmon, and the quarterback was Tristan Smith.
Yeah.
Tristan they couldn't stop him, and at the end of the game, Curtis it's either tied or Curtis is up, and he makes that 3-minute left march, and I think he threw 5 completions, and then he ran and picked up third and whatever more than once on that drive. And they ended up winning the ball game. But the part I remember about it, West Monroe is playing right after them. And in the fourth quarter, I look in the corner of the end zone, and the entire West Monroe coaching staff is standing in the corner. Like, the pregame speeches are over or whatever.
Yeah.
And I walked by Coach Showles, and Don said, this might be the best quarterbacking performance I've ever seen in this building, and he saw a bunch of.
That's big words coming from that guy.
Yes,
another one that's no longer with us. We lost some of the legends. We were talking during the break. Red Franklin, who passed away within the last year. You told me his wife has also passed
last night.
Last night, we've lost some of the real legends who come through.
Oh, we have. I'm looking forward to Catholic High plays West Monroe at West Monroe this year, and the whole stadium and Showles and all. So I'm looking forward to go up there and seeing. And that's been the neat thing for me, Charlie, is following my grandson. I'll go. I know just about every coach, not only the head coach, I know the assistant coaches on the opposing teams, and I'll go down before the game and say hello and catch up with some of those guys.
I never did a game up there, but I was there 2 years ago for something else and went by their facility. And it ain't $62 million, Mitch, but it's really
it
nice.
is pretty impressive.
Yeah,
and they've got suites now, and it's. I'm looking forward to seeing it in person. You had mentioned. I got to tell you this story. You'd asked about the best of the best. Unfortunately, we never got Fournette in the Dome. St. Aug never made it, but we were doing the LHSA Game of the Week back then, and we televised that game, and I would call the teams we wanted to put on TV, we would call them in advance. And I was able to get St. Aug at St. Thomas More in a quarterfinal game.
Ooh.
And this was a really good St. Thomas More team. So we get down there, and Saints were our sponsor, and they had a big whole thing set up. I remember it just being packed with people, and I get there early, and we're getting production set up and all for the broadcast, and I walked out on the field as teams were warming up, and I see Kim Broussard, the athletic director from St. Thomas More. I said, well, Kim, what do you think? And he said, Mitch, we're not going to stop him, but if we can contain him, let's keep him at 100 yards or less. He said, I think we're going to be okay. 2.5 hours later, 380 yards. It was something ridiculous. He had like 200 rushing.
He wasn't much contained.
He ran a punt return back. He caught a pass. He was unbelievable. And unfortunately, that game was incredible. But unfortunately, I never got to see him in the dome.
No, and you mentioned Thomas More. I played against them when they were a 3A school. And now the school itself was only about 6 or 7 years old. They were playing. This is kind of the evolution of a program, okay?
Yeah.
St. Thomas More, which I think the school was founded in 1980, maybe 1981, somewhere in that area. We played them in 87 or 88. They were still playing their games at the old Clark Field, which was over by the airport in Lafayette. It was doubled as a baseball field. So you played a football game there, you pick sand out your helmet for the rest of the season. But that program to go from where it was, and Jim Hightower, who was the coach then and still is, okay, and has won 400 and something games. Yeah, you want to talk about a guy that took a program and just
built it,
made it his own from a school that didn't even exist all the way to the powerhouse that they are now. And we saw a few like that.
When you talk about the level of coaching, you brought that up earlier in the conversation. When you look nationally, J.T. Curtis is at the very top.
Yeah.
Hightower and like Red Franklin, some of them guys weren't too far behind. They would certainly be up in the top percentage. But then in basketball, Charles Smith from Peabody, if he's not number one, he's up there in the top 3 or 4. Danny Broussard is right behind him. So that just kind of what you alluded to earlier. Not only are they good, and we're as good or better than anybody in the country.
Been blessed to see
really
a lot of this stuff. Man, Mitch, I can't thank you enough for stopping by today. This has been a lot of fun for me. It's a one-off from what we usually do here, but to be able to reminisce here a little bit and get ready for football season. So good to see you, my friend.
Thank you, buddy. And I can remember a young Charles Hannegriff, a young Jimmy Ott, so brings back a lot of memories.
First game I ever did was on the roof at Parkview Baptist and in the press box in Baton Rouge. And about the middle of I thought, this is great. And in the middle of the third quarter, it started to rain. And then the lightning came in. I realized, you a dummy.
Was that Kenny Giott years?
No, it was before Kenny.
It
was Coach Dawson, Billy Dawson was the coach. And they snapped a 20-game losing streak against Catholic of Point Capee. And all I was trying to do was try not to get struck by lightning the whole second half of the game. We're brought to you by Coastal Capital Advisors, your full-service financial planners, because when it comes to retirement, there's no two situations alike. Coastal Capital Advisors will work with your business partners, your legal team, and tax professionals to make sure your goals are achieved. They'll work for you because they've been working for me for a long time. Contact Phil Fontenot and his staff, 337-981-1376, or online at coastalcapitaladv.com. Advisory services provided by New Age Advisors, members FINRA, SIPC. Take a break, come back, wrap things up here. Live at the Queen, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from the Queen Casino on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
And we're winding up here at the Queen. Want to remind you that the sports book here, just fantastic place to watch a game with one of the best screens anywhere. So if you want to get in for the Hall of Fame game tonight, or obviously once the season starts, Max, you got a pick?
Chargers minus 110 on the money line in the first half. I got to back my guy, Trey Lance, playing the full first half. This is his time. This is his time to shine. And also we've seen a little bit more scoring lately in these Hall of Fame games. They've gone over in the last 3. I don't really trust D. Uungale to score, so maybe a first half over as well. I think it was 16.5 here at the Queen.
You're taking a real risk here, I want you to know, because if Lance stinks it up tonight, you got to do a show with me tomorrow. Yeah, for sure. Okay, it's a Hall of Fame game tonight without the chains. That'll be interesting to see if that.
I did see it was raining, which has always been a problem at that game, unfortunately. I saw it was raining at the McAfee show today.
Yikes. Okay, one quick update from the Wyndham Championship. Looks like The lead is at 9 under par at Joel Dahman, 1 shot ahead of Alex Noren. Cam Young, Aaron Rai, among those at 7 under, 2 shots out. Jordan Spieth, one of our consensus picks yesterday, 5 under par for the day, 4 shots out of the lead. Thanks to everybody for participating today. For Jordan, from Max, and all of us here at the Queen, I'm Charles Hanniger saying thank you and good afternoon. Stay tuned for Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.